Alright, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the center of data. What is the center of a data set, and how do we determine which is a better measurement of the center of a set of data? Now, the definition, the center of a data set is the value that represents the middle of the data. Now, if you're curious, there are three different types: mean, median, and mode. And if you forgot what those are, go back and watch those videos. Remember, mean is the average. You add up all the data and divide by how many numbers are in the set of data. Median, you organize the data set from least to greatest and find the number in the middle. And if there's two numbers in the middle, you add them up and then divide by 2. And mode is the most popular. So you organize them from least to greatest and figure out what number or numbers repeat the most. Now, those three are all measurements of the center of data. Now, sometimes one is always a better measurement than the other, and how we're going to determine that is what is going to be as follows. When to use mean or median to find the center of data. Step 1, determine if there is an outlier or outliers in the set of data. Step 2, determine which is the better measure of the center of data, and we're going to use this table right over here to determine that. All right. Typically, though, if it has an outlier, median's the best. If not, usually mean, but it can go, there's a possibility where both can actually be a better measurement. So you have to look over the data. Alright, so if we take a look here, we have a set of data and we want to determine which is better, first. So if we take a look at the data, we're going to go ahead and first determine if there's an outlier or outliers in the set of data. And as you remember, we're going to order the data from least to greatest, right over here. And notice I also have it organized on a number line as well. After that, we're going to examine the spacing between the elements. So we're going to look at the spacing to see if there's an outlier. So I got the two ways. One is in the set where I see how far spread apart, and I can see that each one increases by 9, except from 59 to 92 there was an increase of 33. And if you look at the number line, you can see that as well. Most of the data is, actually all the data except for one, is bunched up between 10 and 65. But then there's a huge jump to another point that's just beyond 90. So once we've done that, we're going to look for the number that is far removed from everything else. And if we take a look, it's easy to find because we can easily see 33 is way bigger than 9 when you're talking about spread, and we can easily see the jump right there. Because of that, we know there's an outlier, and the outlier is in fact 92. Okay, so now we know there's an outlier. So because of that, we're going to jump into the next one, determine which is a better set of measure, and we're going to go ahead and examine the table to determine that. So I'm going to pop up the table, and the first thing we're going to do, since we first look for an outlier, is we're going to look through the columns and what they say about outliers. So I highlighted what they say about outliers in green. The first column says there are no. Next one, it says there are no outliers as well. And the last one that says there are outliers. So clearly we can see that we're going to use, since there is an outlier, we're going to use the third column. So I'm going to red out the other two and keep that last one green. Since that's the case, we're going to examine what the rows say, which one I should use. And it's clear that we are going to use mode because mean says no, mode says, median says yes. So we're clearly using the median. The mean says no, median says yes. Now that we know that, we're going to go ahead and go, yay! Since there is an outlier, then the median is the best measure of the center of data. Remember, usually if there is an outlier, if there is an outlier, you automatically should go to median. If there isn't, most likely you're going to use mean, but there is a possibility where you don't. Now that we know that, we're going to go ahead and find the median, because that's what it wants us to find. The median is the best measure. So if you remember, we organized the data, and lucky for us, we already did that. We organized it from least to greatest, and now we're going to look for the number in the middle. So we're going to start crossing out numbers. So I cross out the first and last one. Then I cross out the next to the first one, next to the last one. Then I cross out the next to the first one, next to the last one after that. and then I end up with the number in the middle. And that number in the middle is 41, so my median is 41. So the best measure of center is median, and that measure of center is 41. So 92 is an outlier. Since there is an outlier, the median will be the best measure. I repeat, the best measure of the center of data, and the median is 41. Alright, so that's all you had to do. First, we organized the data from least to greatest, we looked at the spacing, and we tried to find an outlier. In this case, we did, and that was 92. After that, we used the table, and we read through the title of the columns of that table, and found only one of them mentioned about having an outlier. Since of that, we used the third column, which that's what it was, and it said median was the best option. So we used the median, and we found our median was 41. Alright, so that's everything when it comes to figuring out what's the better option and how we find it. Alright, now I want you guys to give you your own practice. I want to give you your own practice. So as you can see here on the screen, I have given you 3 problems, and you can easily see problem 1, problem 2, and problem 3, and they each have a set of data. And as you can read, given the data sets below, explain which center measure are more appropriate, and explain why, then find the mean or median respectively. Alright, sorry I had to make a quick correction because that should see is more important. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to repeat that. Given the data sets below, explain which center measure is more appropriate and explain why. Then find the mean or median respectively. So what I want you to do, on a separate piece of paper, I want you to do your work and figure out which one's more appropriate, explain why, and then find it. Once you have those 3 things for these 3 problems, I want you to come back to the video and we're going to review it all together. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video now. Alright, welcome back. So as you can see, I have the original problems on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and reveal my answers now. As you can see, for each one of them, I organized the set of data in order from least to greatest. And then from there, for the first one, I looked at the spread, and then I noticed that there is in fact an outlier because there's a jump between the first number and the second number, 12 and 34, of plus 22, while all the rest of them are 0, 1, 9, 11, 7, and 4. So all the rest of them are rather close except for that 12. Now for problem number 2 and problem number 3, there was no outlier because problem number 2, all of them was evenly spaced. 11 plus 11 is all the way across. Whereas number 3, they were all generally very close together, either 1 or 0, and there was a spacing of 9, but that was about it. So all the data was rather close there. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Now, because of that, 1 had an outlier, and it's 12, and 2 and 3, there were no outliers. So, looking at the table for problem number 1, since there was an outlier, automatically we had to use median. Now, for number 2, since the data has no outlier, and the data values are somewhat close to each other, that's why I say somewhat close, because it's plus 11, the mean can be used as a center measure, meaning that the mean was a better one. In other words, I would use that second column in the table. For the last one, since the data has no outlier and the data's value are relatively close to each other, then mean or median can be used as a center measure. In other words, I used the first column. Both of these could have been easily used. So for the first one, problem number 1, I go ahead and do the thing, cross out, and I find I have 2 numbers in the middle, 35 and 44. Add them up, divide by 2, and I end up with my answer of 39.5. So my median is 39.5. For problem number 2, again we said mean, so we added up all the numbers and divided by 7. And I got 56, so our mean was 56. For problem number 3, I had to go and do 2 problems. I added them all up, divided by 9, got 27. And for the last one, I kept on crossing out until I got to 23, so the number 23 was left in the middle. And because 23 was left in the middle, that is my median. So my answer for number 1, 12 is my outlier. We have to use median since there is a outlier. And my median is 39.5. Answer for number 2, there is no outlier. And since there is no outlier and all of the data values are somewhat close, we have to find mean, and my median was 56. And for number 3, there are no outliers, and since the data has no outlier and the data values are relatively close to each other, then mean or median can be used. And so my mean was 27, my median was 23. All right, that's everything for now. Have a great day. I look forward to seeing you next time.